Well guys, here we go again, Deathwatch ranked at the bottom tier. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at some early predictions of Deathwatch performance in Arks of Omen. In the first part, we will go through a recent Space Marine chapter ranking by Art of War, as well as their collaboration with Goonhammer, leading to a faction-focused article that Goonhammer published on their website. In the second part, we will dive into the dangers of echo chambers among the Warhammer 40k community at large, and what we Deathwatch players can do about it. Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video. Before diving right into the Space Marine chapter's ranking by Art of War, I think it is worth pointing out that doing tier lists of any kind can generally be considered as the kind of content attracting a lot of viewers. Relatively straightforward to do, everyone has an opinion about it, and plenty of passionate discussions are likely to emerge from it. After all, here we are. But anyway, in general, I think tier lists should be taken with a grain of salt, unless they are backed by data, like GW pulls for their MetaWatch for instance, but at such an early stage of Arks of Omen, this is of course impossible to do, because we simply don't have a big enough sample size yet. Therefore, early tier lists are opinions and should be treated as such, especially in the light of attracting viewers trumping a currency. Having said that, returning to the Art of War Space Marine tier list itself, where Deathwatch gets ranked at the bottom tier, essentially making them the worst Space Marine chapter by their estimate. The full video is linked in the description for reference. In a nutshell, the reasons mentioned are not getting the super doctrine changed due to mission tactics overruling it, the loss of the Army of Renown, the loss of secondaries, and the price bump to Deathwatch veterans in the light of the mostly free war gear changes. Now, as regular viewers and fellow Deathwatch players well know, these are valid concerns, which I covered extensively in previous reviews. Where I personally cannot follow their train of thought, however, is when they suggest that Deathwatch did not get points drops on units that matter, as well as suggesting that Deathwatch cannot make melee-oriented kill teams work. There is plenty more talk about wanting Devastator Doctrine in the first place, breaking the Super Doctrine in order to get the regular doctrines, to make some shooty missile launcher list work, which is further reinforced by the example list provided in the Goonhammer article, to which we will get in just a moment. There are no explicit reasons given for why Deathwatch should suddenly lean heavily into heavy weapons and Devastator Doctrine, especially when both past successful competitive lists, as well as the Arks of Omen Deathwatch specific changes, suggest otherwise. I can only speculate of course, but it seems like they believe that Deathwatch should take the vanilla Space Marine shooting approach and just go heavy death, because that's where doctrine changes and Codex Warfare align. Well, for Deathwatch, this does not apply. There have been no successful competitive lists running that for the past 2 mission packs. There are no Deathwatch specific changes that actually support running this now, on the contrary, which they even admit themselves. In answer to their 2 main points, precisely because we do have mission tactics still in place, running the Proteus kill teams as close combat murder bricks, in the shape of the Costello Clangby style kill teams, with a lot of hammers, and Storm Shield vets to deliver them into close combat, cares neither about the change to doctrines, about the loss of Armor of Contempt, or about the vets points hike. The points have been side graded, that's all. This kind of composition has been a staple of successful competitive Deathwatch lists for over a year by now, and I think it shows the lack of research done if one is blissfully unaware of it. Furthermore, thanks to mission tactics, we can indeed go assault doctrine as early as we want to. Furthermore, points drops to Primaris units like the Heavy Intercessors, Aggressors or Outriders, which we can play as OPSEC infantry, do in fact positively affect Deathwatch through their corresponding kill teams, which are still our main strength and happen to be troops, now better than ever with sticky objectives, and CP gain on some core secondaries. These mentioned kill teams don't need Death Doctrine either. Then finally, there was also an epic comment about Deathwatch not getting easy access to rerolls. Have you guys as much as glanced at the supplement? The unfortunate part here, I think, is that Art of War took the Army of Renown as an excuse to pretty much disconnect from Deathwatch for well over a year. After all, as one of them said himself, he does not understand the rules and could apparently not be bothered to learn them, and as a result pretty much did not follow up on how competitive Deathwatch has been successfully played, including 3 tournament wins in Warzone Nephilim. Yet despite all this, they continue to rate them anyway, as if nothing has happened. This is not so much about whether Deathwatch is D tier or not, perhaps they will turn out to be just that, but rather about the lack of research done and the reasons given. Making the switch to the Goonhammer article here, this has been done in collaboration with Art of War, and looking at the suggested list, here we have the 3 Proteus kill teams with a grand total of 21 missile launchers, coming full circle with the earlier comment in the tier list video. We then also have a Spectre's kill team filled with incursors and 3 squad of aggressors plus a chief apothecary. There is no understanding of kill teams there at all. Where is the Costello Clangby kill team that has been the staple of successful competitive Deathwatch lists this past year and remains so even in Arcs of Omen? Where is the Indomitor kill team, the Forest kill team with infantry outriders, the Spectre's kill team with eliminators, the Dominus Aegis relic now that Armor of Contempt is gone? None of it found its way there, even though that's how competitive Deathwatch has worked and will still work in the near future. On a side note, as I noticed this article getting very few comments, I submitted one in support of another critical comment. I expressed my surprise over the collaborator chosen for this article, touched on a few key points I believe they got wrong, and suggested that more accurate and updated information about Deathwatch could be found elsewhere. The comment has been removed. Ultimately, I think the problem we are facing here is one of echo chambers. In discussions of news media, an echo chamber refers to situations in which beliefs are amplified or reinforced by communication and repetition inside a closed system and insulated from rebuttal. Goonhammer apparently censors anything not following their narrative. No one contradicts Art of War because they are excellent Warhammer 40k players. As much as they may be spot on regarding factions they regularly play and or encounter, the lack of community feedback results in a kind of arrogance, or at least overconfidence, when it comes to areas where they are less knowledgeable in. Why not rate Deathwatch even though they don't really play or encounter them much? With no pushback from the actual player base who does, ill-informed opinions like "I rate Deathwatch D tier because I think they need Death Doctrine" or 21 missile launches are the way to play Deathwatch, amplify and reinforce themselves, resulting in an overall bad experience for anyone actually trying to pick up and play Deathwatch. I initially wanted to skip on the Goonhammer article, as I generally like their content, but in the light of these recent developments and their apparent disregard for proper research regarding their own articles, let me spell it out here once more. As a Deathwatch player, do not invest into 21 missile launchers and don't aim for a list as was provided. Not only will you have a miserable time collecting and building it, but it is also complete garbage to play with the current set of rules. While the Deathwatch community may be small, we have a decent amount of players regularly attending tournaments, and I cover their results and lists on my channel on a monthly basis. Best to take advice from them through their performance. They might not have won LVO or the ICT, but at least they know how to play Deathwatch through first-hand experience. One of them went 5-1 at LVO, by the way. Then finally, to the Deathwatch community, I encourage you to speak up when videos or articles of that sort are being released. All it takes is a comment. No need to bash anyone, no attempt to discredit, just a simple statement explaining why you disagree. Yes, you might get some internet backlash by a bunch of sheep over it, but leaving it unremarked makes it worse for every current and future Deathwatch player. This goes for any kind of underrepresented faction, by the way. You guys might be next in line. So that's it for the recent early prediction of Deathwatch performance in the Arcs of Omen, including the Art of War Space Marine chapters ranking, as well as the Goonhammer faction focus. How do you guys rate these predictions? And do you think that Deathwatch has any chance of winning tournaments in Arcs of Omen? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.